In the silent, frozen darkness far beyond Earth's skies lies a world that has captured the imagination of scientists for decades. A world surrounded by shimmering rings, wrapped in icy light, and orbited by dozens of strange, breathtaking moons. This is Saturn. From a distance, it looks calm, elegant, almost peaceful. A giant planet floating in a sea of black velvet. But once you look closer, once you follow the trail of the Cassini spacecraft and peer behind the curtain of Saturn's rings, you discover something extraordinary. Saturn is not just a planet. It is an entire archipelago of alien worlds, each one hiding secrets that challenge everything we thought we knew about our solar system. These moons, frozen and distant, were once believed to be nothing more than cold, inactive balls of ice. But then came the discoveries, shocking, impossible, reality-bending discoveries that transformed these silent objects into some of the most exciting destinations in space exploration. Oceans beneath solid ice. Geysers erupting hundreds of kilometers into space. Atmospheres thicker than Earth's. Moons split between darkness and light. Worlds that look like flying saucers. Moons that may have once lived far from Saturn, only to be captured and held forever in its gravity. Every moon around Saturn has a story. Every moon is a chapter in a cosmic book billions of years old. And today, you and I are going to open that book. Imagine standing on the surface of a frozen moon where the horizon glows faintly orange, where lakes ripple not with water but with liquid methane. Imagine flying through plumes of icy vapor shooting from deep cracks in the surface, each particle carrying clues from a hidden ocean below. Imagine looking up at a ringed giant so large that it fills half the sky, glowing like a guardian of ice and stone. This is not science fiction. This is Saturn, a system bursting with life's ingredients, geological wonders, and mysteries so deep that even today, scientists are still trying to understand them. For more than a decade, the Cassini spacecraft orbited Saturn, taking us closer than any human could ever dream. It sent back images of moons we had never truly seen before. It revealed landscapes carved by ancient forces, climates shaped by alien weather, and worlds that might even host the building blocks of life. With every flyby, Cassini shattered another piece of our old assumptions and replaced them with a new, more thrilling truth. Saturn's moons are not dead worlds. They are alive with activity, energy, and possibility. So in this journey, we will explore the 10 most astonishing discoveries among Saturn's icy moons, places that prove our solar system is far more dynamic, more mysterious, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Get ready, because the story of Saturn's moons is not just about science, it's about wonder. It's about the thrill of the unknown. And it's about the incredible realization that some of the most remarkable places in the universe are not stars, but small, icy worlds hidden in the shadow of a giant. The story of the moon's hidden hemisphere begins long before humanity learned to look up and question why one face always stared back at us. For thousands of years, ancient civilizations believed the moon was a perfect, unchanging sphere that rotated freely in the heavens. They imagined gods, spirits, and mythical creatures living on its glowing surface, unaware that half of this world was permanently locked away from view. This unseen side became a canvas for imagination, a place where everything unknown could dwell. Yet the truth, as revealed by modern science, is far more extraordinary than any ancient tale. The dark side of the moon, more accurately called the far side, is not dark at all. It receives sunlight just as much as the near side. It simply never turns toward Earth due to a phenomenon known as tidal locking. But the mystery of why it looks so dramatically different from the side we see every night has captivated astronomers, scientists, and dreamers for decades. When we observe the moon from Earth, we are looking at a familiar face marked by large, smooth, dark patches called Rhea, ancient lava seas that spread across vast basins billions of years ago. These dark plains give the moon its iconic appearance, the one that poets, artists, and filmmakers have romanticized endlessly. But if we could stand on the lunar far side, we would meet a completely different landscape. Rugged, chaotic, and heavily scarred. Craters pile upon craters, creating a jagged terrain that seems almost alien. The contrast between the two sides is so striking that it appears as though the moon is composed of two entirely different worlds fused together. Understanding how this happened requires traveling back nearly 4.5 billion years, to a time when the solar system was still young. The early moon was far hotter and more dynamic than the quiet, dusty world we know. Both sides were bombarded by asteroids, but the near side, facing Earth, experienced conditions that allowed lava to flow and fill its giant craters. Scientists believe this is because the crust on the near side was thinner, possibly due to Earth's gravitational pull heating it more intensely. When large impacts occurred, the molten material below the surface rose and spread out, smoothing the terrain. But the far side, with its thicker crust, did not crack open as easily. As a result, its craters never filled with lava, leaving them sharp and ancient, a frozen record of billions of years of cosmic history. For most of human existence, no one knew any of this. The far side remained one of the last great natural mysteries. We had maps of Earth, Mars, and even distant planets through telescopes, but half of our own moon remained hidden. That changed only in 1959, when the Soviet spacecraft Luna 3 sent back the first blurry photographs of the far side. The images were grainy, low resolution, and difficult to interpret, but they revealed a surface unlike anything astronomers had expected. Almost no Rhea. Countless craters. A dramatic silence that had lasted since the moon's birth. Even with their poor quality, these images were revolutionary. For the first time, humanity saw something no one in all of history had ever witnessed. As decades passed, better missions followed. Lunar orbiters mapped every crater and ridge with improving precision. Scientists began piecing together the moon's asymmetric nature, comparing chemical compositions, crust thickness, and thermal data. They discovered that the far side's crust is almost twice as thick as the near side. They found minerals that were rare or entirely absent on the side facing Earth. They realized that the far side is home to the largest and oldest impact basin in the solar system, the South Pole Aitken Basin, a vast scar stretching over 2,500 kilometers. This basin is so deep and ancient that studying it is like reading a time capsule from the earliest days of planetary formation. But despite all the knowledge gained, one thing remained constant. No human had ever set foot on the far side. Even robotic missions had never landed there due to the lack of direct communication with Earth. The far side is shielded from Earth's radio signals, making real-time control impossible. That is, until 2019, when China's Chang'e 4 mission achieved what many thought impossible. Using a relay satellite positioned beyond the moon, it became the first spacecraft in history to make a soft landing on the far side. Its arrival opened a new chapter in lunar exploration, offering unprecedented data about the soil, rocks, and subsurface. It also confirmed something astonishing. Beneath the far side's crust lies material that may come from the moon's mantle, the layer below the crust that has never been directly sampled. If true, this could answer major questions about how the moon formed, evolved, and cooled. The far side is not only scientifically fascinating, it is also a dream location for future human activity. Because it is shielded from Earth's radio waves, it is one of the quietest places in the inner solar system for radio astronomy. Telescopes built there could detect signals from the earliest stars and galaxies, reaching farther back in time than ever before. The far side could also become a hub for deep space missions, with potential resources like helium-3 and rare minerals that might one day support lunar industry. But before that future can unfold, its surface must be understood in detail, and humans will need technology capable of surviving its extreme conditions: colder nights, rougher terrain, and complete isolation from Earth. To explore the far side is to explore the unknown. It is a place where sunlight comes without Earthlight, where shadows stretch long across jagged crater rims, and where silence becomes absolute. Standing there, an astronaut would see Earth rise. Never. Our home planet would remain hidden forever behind mountains of ancient rock. The sky would be sharp and star-filled, untouched by the blue glow we are used to. The landscape would feel distant, haunted by billions of years of unbroken stillness. And yet, it would also be breathtaking. A frontier of raw, untouched geology that preserves the most ancient memories of our solar system. The far side of the moon teaches us a profound lesson about perspective. The side we cannot see is often the side that holds the deepest truths. For centuries, people imagined this hidden world filled with darkness and danger. Now we know the truth. It is not a place of mystery because it is dark. It is mysterious because it is ancient, untouched, and fundamentally different from the world we observe. It reminds us that even something as familiar as the moon still holds secrets, waiting patiently for us to uncover. And so, when we talk about exploring the moon's far side, we are not just talking about discovering new craters or geological anomalies. We are talking about reaching into the past, into a time when the solar system was violent, hot, and chaotic. We are talking about understanding the forces that shaped our planet and its nearest companion. And we are talking about pushing human curiosity farther than ever before, beyond the line of sight and into the true frontier of space. This is why the far side continues to inspire missions, documentaries, and scientific dreams. It is a reminder that the universe still contains hidden worlds, even within arm's reach. As we continue exploring, we bring the moon's far side out of the shadows and into the light, not by changing it, but by finally understanding it. The moon has always been a place of mystery, but few regions are as enigmatic and scientifically valuable as its polar zones. Unlike the near side or even the far side, the poles exist in a strange balance between eternal light and eternal darkness. When astronauts of the future look toward these regions, they won't be seeing gentle landscapes or familiar plains. They'll be staring into some of the most extreme environments in the entire solar system, places where shadows remain untouched for billions of years, and sunlight hovers at the edge of the horizon like a constant twilight. To understand why the poles are now the center of global exploration, we must step into this world where ancient ice, endless night, and fragile sunlight shape a story older than human civilization itself. The poles of the moon appear deceptively quiet from above, but a closer look reveals a landscape carved by time in ways unlike anywhere else. Because the moon's axis is tilted only a tiny amount, just about 1.5 degrees, the sun never climbs high in the sky at the poles. Instead, its rays skim the surface at a shallow angle, illuminating mountaintops but leaving deep craters permanently buried in darkness. These permanently shadowed regions are among the coldest places known. Inside them, temperatures plunge to -240 degrees Celsius, colder than Pluto and colder than most regions of deep space. In such conditions, even gases that evaporate instantly on Earth remain frozen for billions of years. For decades, scientists wondered what secrets were hidden inside these eternal shadows. It wasn't until the early 21st century that orbiters and impactor missions revealed the answer: frozen water. Not in lakes or sheets of ice like at Earth's poles, but mixed within the soil as tiny grains or trapped in deeper deposits under layers of dust. This discovery rewrote everything we thought we knew about the moon. Suddenly, the moon wasn't just a lifeless desert. It was a world with resources that could one day sustain human explorers. The presence of water dramatically changes the lunar story. Water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, giving astronauts the ability to make fuel, oxygen to breathe, and water to drink. It turns the moon into a potential refueling station for missions going deeper into the solar system. The poles, once thought to be unreachable wastelands, became the most valuable real estate off Earth. But the discovery of ice was just the beginning. The landscape of the poles themselves is a marvel of natural sculpting. The rims of certain craters are bathed in sunlight for up to 90% of the year. These peaks of eternal light stand in direct contrast to the nearby darkness that never sees the sun. Imagine walking just a few hundred meters and experiencing a shift from a region bathed in soft, constant light to another locked in night older than any life on Earth. This interplay of shadow and illumination gives the poles an almost surreal beauty, one half frozen in time, the other warmed by the sun's faint glow. These contrasting conditions make the poles a prime target for future lunar bases. Consistent sunlight means steady power for solar panels. Proximity to shadowed craters means access to ice. Together, these elements form the perfect combination for long-term human presence. Engineers imagine habitats perched on sunlit ridges, with robotic systems descending into the dark craters to collect samples and return valuable resources. Rovers equipped with advanced thermal protection will navigate steep, icy slopes. Drones might one day map the darkest corners using lasers and infrared sensors. This dream, once distant, grows more achievable with every new mission. To truly appreciate the poles, we must look at the geological formations that define them. One of the most iconic features is Shackleton Crater, a 21-kilometer wide formation with a floor permanently in shadow and walls that gleam with near-constant sunlight. Explorers of the future may find Shackleton to be one of the most promising locations for bases and research stations. The crater's interior is believed to hold significant quantities of ice, preserved for billions of years. Its rim, meanwhile, remains warm enough for human operations, acting as a natural balcony overlooking a pit of ancient darkness. Beyond Shackleton lies an even larger wonder, the South Pole Aitken Basin, a massive impact scar spanning over 2,500 kilometers. This structure is one of the oldest and deepest craters in the entire solar system. Its sheer size and age make it a scientific treasure, containing rocks and minerals from deep within the moon's crust. If humans can study this basin directly, it could unlock secrets about how the moon formed and how planetary bodies evolve over time. It is this combination of ice, ancient rock, and extreme conditions that makes the poles so critical for science. They offer a chance to study the solar system's earliest history preserved in the coldest vaults imaginable. They offer a chance to build telescopes shielded from Earth's radio noise, capable of detecting faint signals from the early universe. And they offer a chance to give humans a foothold beyond Earth, one that is both sustainable and scientifically rich. Yet, exploring the poles is anything but easy. The extreme temperatures can destroy machinery. Dust can coat equipment with abrasive layers of tiny, sharp particles. Darkness makes navigation nearly impossible. Rovers must be designed with thermal systems that can endure long stretches without sunlight. Landers must rely on nuclear power sources or advanced batteries. Communication networks must be set up to maintain contact with Earth. Every step must be calculated, every movement engineered with precision. But despite these challenges, missions are moving forward. NASA's Artemis program, for example, is specifically targeting the lunar South Pole for crewed landings. Other nations, such as China, Japan, and India, are also developing missions to explore the poles with landers and rovers. These efforts mark a new era of lunar exploration, one driven not by symbolic first steps, but by the need to understand, extract, and use the moon's resources responsibly. Future astronauts may explore shadowed craters with handheld sensors, dig into icy soil with drills, and collect core samples untouched for billions of years. They may build observatories at the edge of eternal light and watch distant galaxies from a place where the sky is blacker and clearer than anywhere on Earth. They may construct habitats that take advantage of the moon's natural thermal balance, creating a base that stands half in shadow and half in sunlight. The poles will not just be a place to visit. They will become the foundation for humanity's leap beyond Earth. The polar regions remind us of how much there still is to explore. For centuries, the moon has been right above us, glowing in the night sky, yet hiding some of its greatest secrets just out of sight. Now, with new technology and the renewed passion for exploration, we stand closer than ever to revealing those secrets. The poles are windows into the moon's past and gateways to our future. Their shadows hold the memories of ancient comets, freezing moments of the solar system's birth. Their sunlight offers the power needed for future civilizations. Their terrain, rugged and pristine, challenges us to push our limits and redefine what it means to explore. In the end, the poles stand as a symbol of contrast, darkness and light, past and future, danger and opportunity. The farther humanity pushed into the cosmic ocean, the more it realized how little it understood its own galactic home. The Milky Way, with all its radiant spirals and shimmering clusters, had always seemed like a familiar landmark, a bright smear in the night sky, constant and comforting. Yet scientists were beginning to admit a quiet truth. The galaxy was not just vast, it was full of impossible contradictions. There were regions that bent the rules of physics, zones where time stretched strangely, and star clusters that behaved as though they were being guided by an unseen hand. This chapter focuses on the most unsettling of those discoveries, phenomena that refused to be explained by classical models, leaving astronomers divided between awe and unease. The first anomaly emerged from the galaxy's outer halo, where a group of faint, ancient stars drifted like forgotten lanterns. A research team mapping their trajectories noticed a strange pattern. These stars were orbiting the Milky Way in perfect synchronicity, as though choreographed. Their motion defied the natural randomness expected of stellar populations billions of years old. After weeks of recalculations, the team confirmed the impossible. The stars were following a geometric path, almost like points on a rotating polygon. No known physical mechanism could enforce such precision on objects separated by vast distances. Some theorized the stars were remnants of a devoured dwarf galaxy. Others believed a hidden gravitational mass was shepherding them. But when the region was scanned for dark matter signatures, there was only silence. The stars moved together like a flock with no shepherd. Around the same time, a different puzzle appeared in the galactic center. The supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A*, had always been relatively quiet compared to those in more turbulent galaxies. Then, without warning, its energy output began pulsing in regular intervals, perfectly timed flashes occurring once every 6 to 2 minutes. For months, telescopes around the world watched, baffled. Black holes could flicker, but not like this. The rhythm was too precise, too patterned, as though the black hole were keeping time with some hidden cosmic metronome. Rumors spread through the astrophysics community. Some whispered that perhaps a dense cluster of orbiting objects was generating the pulses, but no objects could have survived in that region without being shredded. Others dared to suggest something more exotic. Maybe the structure of spacetime itself was oscillating near the event horizon. Whatever the cause, the pulses eventually stopped as abruptly as they began, leaving behind no clue. It was as if the galaxy had blinked, then returned to its usual calm. But the most disturbing discovery came from deep within one of the Milky Way's spiral arms. Astronomers observing a newborn star cluster noticed that several young stars showed signs of composition that should not have existed anywhere in the galaxy. Their atmospheres contained isotopes that were unstable, isotopes that could not remain intact for the millions of years required to form stars. Yet there they were, fresh, bright, and impossibly assembled. These strange stars appeared to have been born wrong, as though forged from matter that did not belong in the Milky Way. Some proposed that these isotopes had formed during a rare cosmic event. Others argued the material must have originated outside the galaxy altogether. But that idea raised even more unsettling questions. If the matter came from beyond the Milky Way, how did it arrive? And why did it only appear in this one cluster? The debate intensified when researchers began comparing data from different star-forming regions. An eerie trend appeared. The molecular clouds where stars were forming seemed to be drifting toward the same direction over thousands of years. A subtle but measurable drift, as though drawn by a faint gravitational pull from a region that, according to all maps of the Milky Way, contained nothing at all. When teams pointed their instruments at the coordinates, they detected only darkness. Not empty space, worse. A patch with no trace of gas, dust, radiation, or gravitational curvature. It was as if the region wasn't merely empty, but erased, a void so absolute it disrupted the distribution of matter around it. Even stranger were the signals detected at the edges of this void. Low-frequency radio waves, faint but consistent, pulsed with mathematical structure. They did not resemble natural cosmic noise. They resembled patterns repeating with such clarity that some scientists privately admitted the unthinkable. They might be artificial. For months, teams attempted to decode the signals, but each attempt ended in frustration. The patterns repeated, but never resolved. It was like hearing the rhythm of a language without understanding a single word. While the void remained mysterious, other anomalies continued to surface across the Milky Way. A cold region within a distant nebula, colder than theoretical limits allowed, persisted for decades. A stellar nursery displayed a massive cavity shaped like a perfect sphere, with no known force capable of carving such a clean structure. And in the outskirts of the galaxy, a star that should have been burning steadily began dimming and brightening in patterns too complex for natural variability. Some likened it to the behavior of the infamous Tabby star, but on a scale far more dramatic, as if something enormous were passing repeatedly across its surface. These discoveries, scattered across thousands of light-years, might have been dismissed as coincidences if not for the growing realization that many of them shared a troubling theme: precision. Nature, left alone, rarely produces perfect sequences, flawless geometric formations, or rhythmic signals. Randomness was the language of the universe. Yet these anomalies were anything but random. Scientists struggled to explain the growing pattern. Some argued that the galaxy was entering an unusual evolutionary phase. Others believed that the anomalies hinted at hidden forces, dark matter structures, exotic particles, or unknown cosmic interactions. A small but vocal group suggested something far more controversial. Perhaps the Milky Way was not as quiet or isolated as humanity believed. Perhaps the anomalies were traces of something ancient, something that had interacted with the galaxy long before humans existed. The debates spilled beyond academic journals into late-night radio shows, documentaries, and popular science forums. People around the world began asking questions. Was the galaxy hiding evidence of some long-lost event? Were these anomalies natural, or were they the fingerprints of intelligence? And if intelligence was involved, what had it been doing inside the Milky Way so long ago? As data accumulated, one unsettling truth became harder to ignore. The anomalies were distributed too widely, embedded too deeply, and synchronized too precisely to be dismissed as random. It was almost as though the galaxy itself had been shaped by forces humanity did not yet understand. And the deeper scientists looked, the more they began to feel that these anomalies were not just scattered curiosities. They were connected, fragments of a story written across the Milky Way long before humans learned to look up and wonder. As scientists continued piecing together the galaxy's unexplained patterns, a new discovery emerged, one that would change the investigation from a quiet academic pursuit into a global obsession. It began with a faint disturbance detected by a gravitational wave observatory stationed in a remote desert. The waves were unlike anything previously recorded, not the signature of colliding black holes or neutron stars, and not the trembling leftover echoes of ancient cosmic events. These waves came in repeating layers, stacked upon one another like ripples from multiple stones thrown into a pond in perfect rhythm. Even stranger, they arrived not from some distant point in deep space but from within the Milky Way itself. At first, the team operating the observatory suspected equipment failure. They spent days recalibrating sensors, checking mirrors, and rerunning tests. But every correction only sharpened the signal. When the data was released to other observatories around the world, they received the same pattern: gravitational waves with structure, organization, and timing so precise that, once again, the natural explanation seemed to collapse under its own weight. Whatever the source was, it was repeating its signal every 7 to 9 days, as predictable as a cosmic heartbeat. The waves pointed toward a region near the galactic midplane, an area previously mapped and classified as unremarkable, home only to diffuse gas and a handful of cold stars. Yet something in that region had begun moving, something massive enough to warp space-time in a rhythmic cycle. Probes and telescopes turned to the coordinates, but nothing unusual appeared. No black hole, no supernova remnant, no swarm of exotic matter. The space was empty, or at least, empty to the human eye. It was as though an invisible force were exerting weight on the universe, just enough to send ripples across thousands of light-years. As the 7 to 9 day cycle continued, the waves grew slightly stronger. Not dangerously so, but enough that scientists could no longer dismiss them as a fluke. A growing number of researchers began speculating that the waves might originate from an artificial construct, something so dense it could manipulate gravity deliberately. But no known civilization, not even hypothetically advanced ones, could create a structure with that level of power. And even if it could, why would such a structure be hidden in a region with no signs of life or resources? While the debate intensified, a new clue surfaced from an unexpected source. A retired radio astronomer working from his small mountain observatory detected faint microwave bursts near the same coordinates as the gravitational wave source. These bursts were short, incredibly sharp, and contained harmonic frequencies that mirrored the patterns of the gravitational waves. When the data was analyzed, the harmonics aligned like puzzle pieces. Two signals, one gravitational, one electromagnetic, were being emitted in coordination. The synchronization was too precise to be natural. Something was generating both signals, like a beacon created to operate across multiple layers of physics. As the world's scientific community scrambled to understand the implications, Another anomaly appeared, this time in the movement of nearby stars. 3 stars near the region showed sudden microshifts in their trajectories, as though briefly tugged by an unseen gravitational force. These shifts were subtle but measurable. The timing aligned exactly with the emission of the 3rd gravitational wave pulse. Whatever had caused the waves was interacting with the stars near it, pulling them ever so slightly, then releasing them. It seemed to expand, contract, or shift in regular intervals, almost like something breathing. This new pattern deepened the mystery. If the source was natural, such as an unknown stellar object, it should have been detectable. Stars do not appear and vanish. They do not hide behind invisibility. If it were artificial, the energy required to mask its presence would be beyond anything humanity could begin to imagine. Yet even as scientists debated, something else happened, something far stranger. The void discovered in the previous chapter, the one with no radiation or gravitational curvature, began shifting. Very slowly, over the course of months, its boundaries seemed to stretch and contract. Its absolute darkness flickered at its edges, as though reacting to the gravitational waves. When the waves peaked, the void dimly changed shape, and when the waves quieted, the void returned to stillness. It was a faint correlation, but unmistakable. Many feared that the void and the gravitational waves were connected. Others suspected they were manifestations of the same underlying phenomenon. A quiet but rapidly growing theory began circulating among physicists. Perhaps the Milky Way was home to structures or remnants not made of ordinary matter, structures that existed partially outside spacetime as humans understood it. If something were operating from beyond the observable dimensions, it would explain the invisibility, the vanishing isotopes, the synchronized stars, and now the gravitational waves. As researchers continued probing the region, they noticed something else. The microwave bursts, once faint and sporadic, began evolving. Their patterns grew more complex, almost layered, as though carrying more information. One cluster of scientists speculated that the patterns might represent a kind of encoding system, something not meant to be decoded by simple mathematical models but by an entirely different form of logic. A few proposed that the signals were not messages at all but side effects of a massive, ongoing process, like machinery humming in the dark. Public curiosity surged. Media outlets sensationalized the discovery, describing it as proof of extraterrestrial engineering or evidence of a hidden galactic civilization. Governments issued cautious statements urging patience while quietly increasing funding to space agencies. Rumors circulated of private telescopes detecting even stronger signatures than the public data indicated. Conspiracy theories flourished, claiming the Milky Way was undergoing some kind of awakening. Yet the truth was quieter, more unsettling, and infinitely more complex. For as the 7 to 9 day cycle continued, a new phenomenon emerged, one that could not be denied. On the 95th day after the first gravitational wave detection, astronomers monitoring the region saw a flicker of light from the source point. It lasted less than 2 seconds but was unmistakable. A soft, pale glow shimmered, then vanished completely. Instruments recorded a brief spike in luminosity. When cross-checked, the glow appeared to match no known star type or cosmic event. It was too dim to be a flare, too quick to be a supernova, too structured to be random. The brief illumination gave scientists their first hint that something real, something physical, was there, concealed behind a veil of unknown physics. The scientific world erupted. Dozens of research teams pivoted their focus to the coordinates. Some argued the glow was a crack in whatever invisibility field or dark matter shroud hid the object. Others claimed it was simply a trick of light, an artifact of interference. But the timing made that explanation difficult. The flicker occurred exactly 15 seconds after the peak of the gravitational pulse. The correlation was almost impossible to ignore. Scientists began describing the phenomenon using words they had avoided until now: coordination, intention, structure. The moment the silhouette appeared, everything changed. Until then, the scientific world had been cautiously fascinated, arguing with equations, debating hypotheses, and trying to squeeze the unknown into familiar categories. But the instant that geometric shadow flickered into view, a structure thousands of kilometers wide, too perfect to be natural, the debate collapsed. Human understanding cracked. Something artificial sat in a region long believed to be empty. Something vast enough to manipulate gravity itself. The image was brief, less than 4 seconds, and yet analysts froze those frames, enhanced them, reconstructed the lattice-like form with obsessive precision. Straight lines. Perfect curves. A hollow center like a gate. And the most disturbing feature of all, full symmetry. Nature rarely builds symmetry on this scale. Technology does. When the silhouette vanished, panic rushed through governments. Some feared it was a weapon. Some believed it was a signal. Others whispered that humanity had stumbled upon something ancient, something never meant to be found. But regardless of fear or reason, a single truth united them all. The object was real. In the following days, telescopes worldwide pointed toward the coordinates. Probes were redirected, satellites reassigned, observatories synced in a single global effort. For once, nations stopped arguing about borders. A far larger boundary had been crossed. Then came the next shift. The microwave bursts, once sporadic and cryptic, became stable, rhythmic. Every 6 minutes a spiral-shaped frequency rose, dipped, and looped back. When visualized through a spectrogram, the pulse resembled a distorted map of the Milky Way. Analysts found tiny interruptions embedded in the pulse, a sequence of prime numbers. Mathematics without cultural boundary. A signature shared by any intelligent species capable of logic. It hit the scientific world like a thunderclap. The signal was intentional. But if something was communicating, what was its purpose? Theories multiplied like wildfire. Some researchers believed the pulses were a language, not a message. Others argued it might be a function, like machinery warming up, adjusting its components. A smaller group, quiet but persistent, believed the pulses were instructions for someone, or something else. While decoding teams worked around the clock, the gravitational waves intensified again. These waves carried an undertone, a deep, rhythmic vibration that, when translated into models, matched the silhouette's geometry. It was as if the structure were shifting, breathing, coming alive. Stars near the region began behaving strangely. One altered its rotation speed. Another brightened and dimmed in pulses synchronized with the gravitational waves. A third shifted slightly in position, nudged by an unseen force. The region of space around the invisible structure was changing, subtly but undeniably, as if responding to commands. Theories turned darker. The idea of a structure powerful enough to drink energy from stars circulated in hushed conversations. Yet no scientist would dare present this to the public. Humanity wasn't ready. Then an unexpected discovery surfaced, not from a large institution but from a retired astronomer working alone in a mountain observatory. Digging through old data, he found faint, almost undetectable distortions in records going back 40 years. The same gravitational signature. Weak then, but identical in shape. Even earlier, fragments from the 1940s showed anomalies matching the microwave harmonics. The implication was staggering. The structure had been active for decades, perhaps centuries. Humanity had simply lacked the technology or attention to notice. The previous months weren't the beginning. They were an escalation. Armed with this revelation, researchers created simulations to track the structure's activity. The model predicted a convergence, a moment when gravitational waves, microwave pulses, and void disturbances would align. The date was precise. 17 days. As the countdown began, global tension soared. News outlets speculated wildly. Religious leaders issued statements. Social media erupted into theories, fear, excitement. For the first time in history, Earth's attention pointed to one single dot in space. On the 9th day before convergence, gravitational waves arrived strong enough to register on seismic detectors. Tiny tremors rippled across Earth's crust, too small to panic the public, but big enough for scientists to realize the scale of what was happening. Something massive, unimaginably massive, was repositioning itself. 3 days before convergence, the world changed again. The void, a region discovered months earlier where light, gravity, and radiation behaved impossibly, began to glow. Not brightly, Not like a star. It shimmered, slowly, delicately, as if a curtain of white gold mist were unfolding across the darkness. Telescopes captured the moment with unprecedented clarity. The void wasn't empty. It was a membrane, thin, dense, and perfectly spherical. A shell around something hidden. As the membrane dissolved, visibility increased. Beyond it, a shape emerged. Not the lattice seen earlier. Something far larger, stretching across the background like a black continent floating in space. Its surface was layered with spirals and shifting geometry. The scale was incomprehensible. No human structure, no natural formation, nothing in the known universe compared to its magnitude. Panic swept through the scientific community. The silhouette they'd seen earlier had only been a fragment, a piece of the outer framework. The main body of the construct dwarfed entire planetary systems. And then came the silence. For months, the microwave pulses had been constant, reliable as a heartbeat. Now they vanished abruptly. Instruments went flat. Space fell quiet. 2 minutes later, every gravitational detector on Earth and in orbit exploded with the strongest signal humanity had ever recorded. The wave tore through instruments, frying sensors, corrupting storage servers, overwhelming backup systems. But fragments of data survived, compressed, damaged, but salvageable. Teams worked for hours, rebuilding the waveform piece by piece. When they finally reassembled the data, they stared in shock. Embedded within the gravitational wave was a pattern, a map of the galaxy. Highlighted in the map was a single point, the solar system. At first, analysts thought it was a coincidence. But the structure of the pattern was too deliberate to dismiss. And then, at the end of the waveform, the last sequence revealed itself. A countdown. Mathematically perfect. Undeniable. 32 days. Humanity wasn't just observing something awakening. Something was coming. And now the galaxy knew we were here. The forest grew darker as Rhea and Kale moved deeper into the narrowing trail, its towering trees bending overhead until they formed a natural archway of intertwined branches. The soft bioluminescent glow that the valley was known for flickered faintly between the leaves but grew weaker the farther they walked. It felt as though they were stepping out of a living world and into something older, something that had been sleeping for centuries. Rhea could hear every sound more clearly, the crunch of dried leaves beneath her boots, the distant screech of unfamiliar nocturnal creatures, and Kale's slow, steady breathing beside her. He walked with a sense of purpose, though even he seemed quieter than usual. His grip on the obsidian staff tightened with each step, as if he was waiting for something to emerge from the shadows. Rhea felt a growing heaviness in her chest. She had handled danger before, storms, mountains, even near death on previous expeditions, but this was different. This darkness was not empty. It was aware of them, almost watching. She tried to push the thought aside, but it clung stubbornly to her mind. "Are you sure this is the path?" she finally whispered. Her voice sounded smaller than she intended. Kale didn't stop walking. "The Guardians built no false trails," he replied softly. "But they also never said what lies between the valley and the ancient sanctum. Some passages test the heart more than the body." His words were not meant to frighten her, but they did. She wrapped her arms around herself as a chill swept through the forest, curling around her like cold fingers. After an hour of walking, the forest abruptly opened into a clearing. Rhea exhaled in relief until she noticed what stood at its center. A monolithic stone towered before them, carved with spiraling patterns that glowed faintly with shifting colors. It was unlike the other ancient structures she had seen. It looked newer, more awake. Kale approached it cautiously, raising a hand but stopping just short of touching it. "This is a sentinel stone," he murmured. "They're meant to guide. Or warn." Rhea stepped closer, mesmerized. The colors moved inside the stone like liquid sunlight trapped beneath glass. But when she reached out instinctively, Kale grabbed her wrist. "No," he said firmly. "These stones react to fear. Or desire. Touch it with the wrong emotion, and it will show you a path meant to break you." Rhea swallowed hard and lowered her hand. The stone hummed as though acknowledging their presence. Then a section of its surface shifted, revealing a narrow beam of light aimed directly at Kale. It was pointing somewhere behind the stone, toward a thin pathway almost invisible in the dark. Kale nodded, as if receiving instruction. "We follow." The path was steep and rocky, winding upward along the base of an enormous cliff. Rhea struggled to maintain her footing, and twice Kale steadied her when she slipped. The air grew colder as they climbed, and the wind keened through cracks in the rock. When they finally reached a ledge near the cliff's midpoint, Rhea gasped, not from exhaustion but from the breathtaking sight before them. Below stretched the entire valley, glowing with its peculiar blue light, cradled between mountains like a jewel resting in a giant's palm. But far beyond the valley, on the other side of the horizon, Rhea saw something else. Clouds swirling in unnatural patterns, forming a spiral that stretched across the sky like a storm caught in slow motion. Lightning flickered inside it, but silently, as though even sound feared to disturb whatever force was gathering there. Kale followed her gaze. "It has begun," he whispered. "The convergence." His voice trembled, and Rhea realized she had never heard fear from him before. "What does it mean?" she asked. Kale lowered himself onto the ledge and stared at the storm with a distant, haunted expression. "Every few centuries," he began slowly, "the valley's power aligns with something beyond the skies. When the balance is stable, the convergence strengthens our world. It renews the energy that keeps the valley alive." He paused. "But if the balance is disturbed, if the Guardian's relic is misused, or taken too far from its origin, the convergence becomes a breach instead. A tear between worlds." Rhea felt a prickling at the back of her neck. "So that storm could open something?" Kale nodded. "And something could come through." They sat in silence for a long time before Kale stood and motioned her to follow. He led her to a small crevice in the cliff wall that Rhea hadn't noticed earlier. Inside, the passage was narrow and twisted, but it eventually opened into a cavern illuminated by thousands of shimmering crystal shards embedded in the ceiling. The light reflected off the cavern walls, creating a soft, undulating glow like water rippling in moonlight. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal carved with ancient symbols. On top of it rested a small stone tablet the size of Rhea's hand. Kale approached it slowly, reverently. "This is the record stone," he said. "It shows the truth of the relic's path." Rhea stepped closer. The moment Kale touched the tablet, images burst across the cavern walls like living paintings. The first image showed the relic, glowing, pulsing, being carried by a towering figure wearing armor of woven silver. The second showed the relic being placed inside a chamber deep beneath the mountains. The third image made Rhea's blood freeze, the relic being removed by a group of figures cloaked in dark fabric, their faces hidden. They were not from the valley. They looked human, modern, and one of them carried a device she recognized, a handheld electromagnetic scanner used in scientific expeditions. Rhea stepped backward in shock. "No, that can't be. Someone from the outside world found it." Kale's jaw tightened. "Or took it intentionally." Rhea's mind raced. If someone from the modern world had stolen the relic, thinking it was just an artifact, it could explain why the convergence had become unstable. "We have to find them," she said. "We need to bring the relic back." Kale nodded, but his expression was grim. "The record shows where they were headed. But the path leads beyond the valley, beyond our protection." Rhea felt a weight settle in her chest, heavier than before. Leaving the valley meant facing unknown dangers, both natural and human. It meant stepping into a world that had no idea of the power hidden within the relic, or the disaster it could unleash. But she also knew she couldn't turn back. Not when she had already seen what was at stake. "Then we go," she said firmly. "We follow them." Kale studied her face, as if searching for hesitation. When he found none, he gave a small nod of respect. They left the cavern and retraced their steps back toward the forest. The wind had grown stronger, carrying with it a faint, distant rumble, the sound of a world shifting, straining. The sky above flickered again with silent lightning. Rhea pulled her jacket tighter, though she knew the cold came from fear more than weather. Kale walked beside her, his presence steady, grounding. When they reached the sentinel stone again, Its colors were swirling faster, brighter, almost frantic. Rhea placed a hand over her heart to steady its pace. As they stepped past the stone, the hum of the valley shifted in tone. A subtle warning, a low vibration that made the hairs on Rhea's arms rise. Something had changed. Something was coming. She exchanged a glance with Kale, and no words were needed. Their journey was no longer about exploration or discovery. The climb out of the valley felt heavier than the descent had been, not because the path was steeper, but because Rhea could feel the weight of every unanswered question pressing against her ribs. The tunnel behind them sealed silently, swallowing the shimmering world of the Elderglow as if it had never existed. Only a faint residue of blue dust on her fingertips reminded her that it had been real. Kale walked slightly ahead, silent and alert, his eyes scanning the towering trees that crowded the ridge. The forest here was old, older than any map, older than any human memory. Even the wind seemed cautious, whispering through the branches with a thin, tense breath. Tracks in the soil were fresh. 3 sets of footprints, deep enough to show they were moving fast. Rhea crouched to examine them, brushing aside leaves still damp with morning mist. "They're only an hour ahead," she murmured. Kale nodded. "And they're carrying something heavy. That means they'll slow down." He didn't have to say the rest. The relic was unstable. If the thieves didn't know how to handle it, the consequences could be catastrophic. The forest thickened as they continued upward. Vines hung from trees like dark strands of silk, swaying ever so slightly though no wind pushed them. Birds seemed to avoid this place. The silence was broken only by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Rhea's mind drifted back to the Elder's warning. What has awakened is not patient. It listens. She wondered what that meant now, as the mountain loomed ahead like a sleeping colossus bathed in thin sunlight. They reached a stream that cut across the slope, glittering like liquid silver. The water hummed faintly, an undertone that vibrated against Rhea's bones. Kale knelt and placed his hand near the surface. "It's getting stronger," he said. "The relic is reacting." Rhea felt her heartbeat quicken. The relic wasn't just a map or a key. It was alive in its own way, pulsing in tune with the awakened presence buried within the mountain. Whatever force the Valley Guardians had tried so hard to protect was no longer dormant. It was calling. They crossed the stream carefully and followed the trail until the trees thinned, revealing a clearing where the air felt strangely heavy. The soil was disturbed, churned violently as if something had slammed into the ground. Rhea stepped closer and gasped. In the middle of the clearing was a crater, small, but charred around the edges. Kale studied it closely. "They tried to open it," he said. "The relic." The realization hit Rhea like a shard of cold glass. They triggered a surge. He nodded grimly. "A small one. If they force it again, the next surge won't be contained." The thought of the relic detonating, unleashing the ancient energy the valley had guarded for centuries, sent a chill through her. She remembered the way the valley floor hummed under her feet. The valley wasn't just a sanctuary, it was a pressure lock, a containment system for something far bigger than the Elderglow. And that something was waking up. As they moved on, the forest gave way to steep, jagged rock formations. Climbing became difficult. Loose stones slid beneath their boots, clattering into the ravines below. The temperature dropped, frost forming delicate white lines along the edges of leaves. Rhea shivered and tightened her coat. Kale noticed. "The mountain's energy affects the climate," he said. "We're getting closer." Suddenly, a distant echo rippled through the air, a hollow, metallic resonance. Rhea paused. "Did you hear that?" Kale's jaw tightened. They activated it again. They quickened their pace, climbing higher until they reached a narrow ledge overlooking a deep gorge. On the opposite side, 3 figures stood near a fissure in the rock, their silhouettes stark against the pale light. Even from across the gorge, Rhea could see the relic glowing, bright, unstable, alive. One of the thieves raised it, angling it toward the fissure as if trying to align it with something inside. Its light burst in erratic pulses, flashing faster and faster. Kale tensed. If they attune it wrong, the energy will collapse inward. Rhea swallowed hard. Meaning? meaning this entire ridge will tear open. Before she could react, a deep vibration rippled through the ground. The mountain groaned. A windless gust swept across the ledge, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone and petrichor. Light flickered inside the fissure, soft at first, then growing, spiraling into shapes that twisted like living smoke. Kale grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a rock outcrop just as the relic flared. A beam shot out, striking the inner wall of the fissure. The rock glowed red-hot. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface. A low roar filled the air, rising from the depths like something vast unfurling after centuries of sleep. Then came the scream. Not from the thieves, but from the mountain. A sound so ancient, so heart-wrenchingly deep, that Rhea felt it in every cell of her body. The light from the relic flickered violently, and two of the thieves stumbled backward, panic overtaking them. The third tried to hold on, but the relic pulsed again, this time exploding in a shockwave that hurled them all to the ground. Rhea didn't hesitate. She sprinted along the ledge, scanning for a path across the gorge. Kale followed, pointing toward a natural stone bridge half hidden by boulders. They raced across it, careful not to slip on the frost-coated surface, and reached the thieves just as one of them regained consciousness. He looked up at Rhea, terror widening his eyes. "We didn't know," he choked. "We thought it was treasure. Just treasure." Rhea knelt beside him. "Where's the relic?" He pointed toward the fissure. It fell inside." Kale cursed under his breath. The fissure was now glowing from within, light swirling in complex spirals like a living galaxy trapped under stone. The mountain rumbled again, a long, sustained tremor that made dust rain from the cliffs above. "We have to retrieve it," Kale said. Rhea stared at him. "Inside that. If it fully activates in the wrong place, this entire region will collapse. The valley won't hold." He didn't need to explain further. She understood. The elder glow wasn't meant to keep people out. It was meant to keep something else sealed in. Together they approached the fissure. Heat radiated from it in waves, though the surrounding air remained bitterly cold. Rhea peered inside, seeing the relic wedged between two shards of rock, its glow flickering like a dying star. She reached toward it, but as her fingers neared the opening, a force pushed back, a barrier of energy humming with intelligence. Kale placed his hand over hers. "Let me try." He steadied himself, drew a breath, and extended his palm toward the fissure. The barrier reacted instantly, pulsing, swirling, then collapsing inward as if recognizing him. Rhea stared. "How did you?" Kale didn't answer. He stepped forward, bracing himself against the heat, and reached inside. His fingers closed around the relic, and for a moment everything froze. The wind, the tremors, even the light. A blinding flash erupted as he pulled it free. The mountain roared one final time, shaking so violently that the ground cracked beneath their feet. Rhea grabbed Kale, pulling him back as the fissure sealed itself with a thunderous snap. The light vanished. The tremors ceased. Silence rolled over the ridge like a heavy cloak. Kale held the relic close, its glow now steady and calm. Rhea looked at him, breathless. What just happened? He met her gaze, his eyes darker than she'd ever seen them. The mountain had fallen silent, but the calm was deceptive. Rhea and Kale moved cautiously down the ridge, the relic cradled in Kale's arms. Its steady glow cast long, wavering shadows across the frost-lined rocks. Even as they descended, the valley below seemed to hum. A soft, resonant vibration that threaded through the trees, the soil, the very air. Rhea placed her hand over her chest, feeling it echo in her ribs. It wasn't just the relic. The mountain itself was alive, aware of their movements, observing their intentions. "You can feel it too, can't you?" Kale asked, not looking at her but scanning the darkening forest below. Rhea nodded. "It's like it's breathing," she whispered. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. The relic's pulse seemed in sync with the valley's hum, a heartbeat that had survived centuries of neglect, waiting for someone to understand it. Whoever had stolen it had underestimated what they were dealing with. They moved quickly, keeping to the shadows, avoiding the open paths where sunlight glinted off the snow and ice. The thieves had fled, but they had left traces, broken branches, scuffed soil, and the faint acrid scent of fear. Kale studied each mark carefully, muttering under his breath. They're not far. They didn't know where to go, so they're moving erratically. He pointed toward a cluster of jagged rocks ahead, probably trying to find shelter. Rhea's eyes widened. And if they activate the relic again? Kale's face tightened. We won't get a second warning. The first surge could destroy this ridge, maybe the valley too. We have to catch them before they realize what they have. The urgency in his voice matched the pulsing energy in the relic. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the mountain itself was testing their resolve. As they neared a narrow canyon, the forest grew eerily silent. The hum of the valley below had deepened, becoming almost musical, vibrating through Rhea's skull. The relic's glow brightened slightly, reacting to the proximity of something unseen. They are here, Kale murmured. Through the shadows, she could make out 3 figures crouched behind boulders, whispering urgently to one another. They hadn't noticed Rhea and Kale yet. Kale signaled her to stay low. We approach carefully. No sudden moves. They crept forward, using the jagged rocks as cover. The relic hummed louder with each step, as if urging them onward, guiding them toward the thieves. When they were close enough, Rhea could see the figures clearly. 2 men and a woman, all clad in dark jackets, eyes wide with excitement and fear. One of them held the relic, and it pulsed erratically in their hands, casting shifting shadows across their faces. They don't know how to handle it, Rhea whispered. Kale nodded. And that's our advantage. We need to disarm them without triggering another surge. He moved closer, hands raised slightly, his eyes fixed on the thieves. The woman noticed them first and let out a startled cry. The moment the sound pierced the air, the relic reacted. Its glow intensified, and a pulse of energy shot outward, knocking Rhea and Kale backward. Rocks shifted, and the canyon walls trembled. The mountain was alive now, reacting to the mishandling of its power. Kale scrambled forward, using the momentum of the pulse to close the distance between them and the thieves. Rhea followed, heart pounding. The woman swung the relic, trying to flee, but Kale intercepted her with a swift motion, grabbing her arm and twisting gently but firmly. The relic slipped from her grasp and skidded across the rocky floor, landing safely in Kale's waiting hands. For a moment, everything froze. The air thrummed with energy, and the mountains seemed to pause, as if deciding what to do next. The 2 men froze as well, their expressions a mix of shock and awe. The relic's glow had stabilized in Kale's hands, steady and calm once again. He breathed heavily, holding it close to his chest. It's not a toy, he said, his voice low but firm. It's a guardian, and it will destroy anyone who tries to use it recklessly. The woman's eyes widened in realization, fear replacing defiance. We didn't know, she said. We just wanted to. We just wanted to study it. Kale didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned to Rhea, his expression unreadable. We have to get it back to the valley. Now. If it's not returned, the mountain will escalate. Rhea nodded. They had no choice. The relic had to be contained, and time was running out. They began the climb back toward the valley, the thieves reluctantly following behind. The air was tense, filled with unspoken warnings. Every step seemed to resonate with the mountain's hum, which had grown even stronger, vibrating through the soil, the trees, and their very bones. Rhea realized that the convergence, the event the Elder had warned about, wasn't just approaching. It was already in motion, and the relic was the key. As they neared the valley, the ground beneath them shifted subtly. Small cracks appeared along the cliffside, and a low rumble echoed through the forest. Kale stopped abruptly, signaling everyone to halt. The relic pulsed in his hands, brighter than ever. The mountain is testing us, he said. It's alive, and it senses the disruption. We must move carefully. Rhea took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the relic align with her heartbeat. She realized something profound. The mountain didn't just protect the valley. It communicated through energy, through vibrations, and through the relic itself. It had waited centuries for someone worthy to handle its power, and now, under the reckless interference of outsiders, it had begun to react. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. Rocks fell from above, and dust clouded the path. The thieves screamed, scrambling for safety. Kale shouted, "Stay close. Follow me." Rhea grabbed his arm, keeping the relic between them. The hum of the valley rose to a deafening crescendo, and for a brief, terrifying moment, it felt as if the entire mountain were breathing directly into them, judging, testing, and deciding. With careful steps, they navigated the treacherous terrain, the relic guiding their path. The valley entrance appeared ahead, glowing faintly in the dusk. Kale exhaled, relief flickering across his face. They had survived the mountain's first real test. But Rhea knew this was only the beginning. The convergence was far from over, and the relic's awakening had only just begun. As they crossed back into the familiar glow of the valley, Rhea glanced at the thieves. Their fear was palpable, their defiance gone. Kale placed the relic carefully on a flat stone at the center of the valley floor. It pulsed steadily, as though acknowledging its home. The mountain's hum softened, resonating with a gentle rhythm. For the first time in hours, silence fell, a silence filled with relief and tension alike. Kale looked at Rhea, his expression serious. "The convergence is coming, and the mountain knows we're aware of it now. We can't leave the relic here unattended, and we can't underestimate what lies beyond the valley. Whoever built this left warnings for a reason." Rhea nodded. "Then we stay. We protect it. No matter what comes." The thieves remained huddled nearby, too stunned to speak. The relic's glow reflected in Rhea's eyes, steady and unwavering. She realized that the journey ahead would demand more courage than she had ever summoned. The valley was quieter than usual, but Rhea knew better than to trust the stillness. The relic pulsed softly on the stone pedestal, its light casting dancing reflections across the walls of the elderglow. Kale stood beside her, eyes fixed on the horizon where the peaks of the surrounding mountains sliced sharply into the sky. Even in the calm, the mountain's presence was undeniable, vibrating through the soil, the air, and their very bones. Something ancient and immense stirred beneath, and every instinct in Rhea's body told her that the convergence was accelerating. The three thieves, huddled a few feet away, refused to meet her gaze. Fear had replaced all defiance. They knew they had trespassed into something beyond comprehension, yet they had survived to witness it. Kale's voice broke the silence. "We need to secure the perimeter. The relic must not leave this valley again. If it is disturbed, even slightly, the mountain will respond with force far beyond what we can withstand." Rhea nodded, following him as he moved toward the edges of the valley. Every step was cautious, measured, as if the ground itself might betray them. The first signs came as subtle tremors. At first, they were barely noticeable, shaking only the smaller stones scattered across the valley floor. Then the tremors grew, rolling through the valley like waves, making trees sway and leaves shiver. The relic pulsed brighter in response, faster, almost urgently. Rhea felt a vibration in her chest, aligning with the pulse. The mountain was communicating, or warning them. She could feel it as surely as she could see the light of the relic. Kale's eyes narrowed. "It's testing us again," he said. "The convergence is near its peak. If we fail, the balance will be broken." He turned to Rhea. "We need to understand the pattern. We can't just guard it. We must anticipate it." She followed his gaze to the swirling clouds gathering above the valley. The air shimmered as if the sky itself was bending. Light twisted in unnatural ways, forming spirals and geometric shapes that defied physics. The relic's pulses grew faster with each flash of the sky, each vibration of the air. Rhea noticed movement at the edges of the valley. Shadows stretched unnaturally, shifting with a life of their own. The thieves flinched, pointing toward the trees, but the shapes were not human. They moved with precision, almost as if choreographed, gliding across the forest floor without disturbing a single leaf. Kale raised a hand, signaling for silence. "The mountain does not allow intrusion lightly," he whispered. These shadows are guardians, manifestations of its energy. They are testing our resolve. The first shadow emerged from the tree line, a tall, slender figure shimmering like mist, its form constantly shifting. Its presence made the air grow colder, the pulse of the relic synchronizing with its movement. Rhea held her breath. The shadow paused near the relic, bending closer, as if inspecting it. Then it extended a translucent limb toward the thieves. Panic overtook them, and one of the men stumbled backward. The shadow recoiled instantly, then focused its attention on Kale and Rhea. Its gaze felt like a force pressing into their minds, probing, judging. Kale stepped forward, holding the relic high. "We are its guardians," he stated, his voice steady but resonating with authority. "We seek only to protect the balance." The shadow wavered, flickering like a candle in the wind. Slowly, it receded, gliding back toward the forest. The others followed, retreating into the shadows, leaving the valley temporarily calm once more. Rhea exhaled, her heart pounding. She realized the mountain's guardians were testing their worthiness, and any misstep could have provoked disaster. But the relief was brief. The relic pulsed violently, a deep vibration rolling through the valley. The ground shook beneath them, stronger than any tremor before. Kale grabbed her arm, pointing toward the far side of the valley. "Look!" A fissure had opened along the mountainside, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. It pulsed in perfect rhythm with the relic. "The convergence is attempting to connect," Kale said. "The relic is the anchor, and the mountain is trying to stabilize, or destabilize, it." Rhea felt a surge of urgency. The fissure wasn't natural. Its edges shimmered with energy, and the air above it crackled faintly, charged with static. "What do we do?" she asked, voice tight. Kale's expression was grave. "We must ensure the relic remains aligned. If it falls out of harmony, the energy will tear the valley apart." He looked at the thieves, who had collapsed to the ground in fear. "You will help us, whether you want to or not. You know how it reacts now." Under Kale's instruction, Rhea and the thieves moved the relic to a flat rock closer to the fissure. The moment it touched the surface, the pulses stabilized slightly, but the air shimmered, and the vibration continued. Light twisted in the sky above, forming spirals and waves of color that seemed to stretch across the horizon. The mountain's hum had grown into a low roar, reverberating in their chests. Suddenly, a sharp vibration shot through the valley floor. Rocks and debris slid toward the fissure as if an unseen hand had disturbed the balance. Rhea stumbled, catching herself on the pedestal. The relic's glow flared, brighter than ever, and a beam of energy shot into the fissure. The light twisted like a living thing, spiraling upward, touching the clouds above. Kale shouted over the roar of the mountain, "Hold it steady. Focus on the pulse." Rhea placed her hands on the relic, feeling its warmth and its rhythm. It was alive, conscious, resonating with her heartbeat, and she instinctively aligned her breathing with its pulses. Kale did the same, holding the pedestal firmly, eyes locked on the fissure. Slowly, the spiraling energy above began to stabilize, the chaos in the sky forming a perfect pattern, a vortex of light spinning in harmony with the relic. The valley fell into a tense, fragile silence. Rhea realized they were witnessing a cosmic alignment, an event that had not occurred for centuries. The mountain's power was immense, and the relic was its conduit. Every second felt like an eternity, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The thieves watched in stunned silence, their fear palpable. They understood now that the relic was not a tool or a weapon. It was a living connection to the mountain's will, and it demanded respect. As the vortex stabilized, Kale finally spoke. "The first stage of the convergence is complete. But this is only the beginning." Rhea felt a chill. If this was just the first stage, what else could the mountain unleash? The relic's pulse slowed, steadying, but the air remained charged with energy. Somewhere deep inside, the mountain was awakening further, preparing for the next wave. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the valley, low, resonant, like the voice of stone itself. It was not a language, but it carried meaning. The mountain was aware, and it had registered their actions. Rhea felt the vibration in her chest, a warning and an acknowledgement. The convergence was observing them, judging their worthiness, and preparing the next stage. Kale looked at her, his eyes shadowed with concern. We've stabilized it for now, but the mountain will not remain calm for long. We must prepare for what comes next. The relic has awakened fully, and it will guide the convergence, but only if we act wisely. Rhea nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The night sky above the valley pulsed with color, a swirling dance of light and shadow that seemed to bend reality itself. Rhea and Kale stood at the center of the elder glow, the relic between them, its soft glow now fierce and steady, resonating with the mountain's heartbeat. Every vibration of the valley echoed through their bones, and the air felt thick, almost liquid, charged with energy. They could sense the convergence approaching its peak. Kale's eyes scanned the surrounding peaks. "This is it," he said, his voice low and tense. "The mountain is awakening fully. The relic is its anchor, but it will demand more from us now than ever before. We must synchronize completely." He reached for Rhea's hand, pressing her palm against the relic. The moment her fingers touched its surface, a wave of warmth and vibration surged through her body. She gasped, feeling her heartbeat align with the pulse of the relic and, through it, with the mountain itself. The ground trembled beneath them, faint at first, then stronger, rolling outward in waves that rattled loose stones. From the edges of the valley, shadows emerged again, guardians of the mountain, taller and more defined than before. Their forms shimmered like liquid smoke, moving in deliberate patterns, circling the relic and its protectors. Rhea felt their awareness pressing on her mind, examining her intentions, judging her worthiness. She held her ground, steadying her breathing. Any hesitation could provoke the mountain's wrath. Above them, the vortex in the sky widened, lightning arcing silently along its edges, illuminating the valley in brief, blinding flashes. The air smelled of ozone and earth, and the temperature dropped sharply, frosting leaves and rocks. The relic's pulse quickened in response, resonating in sync with the mountain's energy. Rhea felt a thrill of fear and awe. She understood now that this was not just a convergence. It was the mountain's full awakening, a test of humanity's capacity to protect what it had safeguarded for centuries. Kale adjusted his stance, eyes never leaving the relic. "We have to focus," he said. "The mountain will respond to our intentions. Our thoughts, our balance, even our fear, it all matters. If we waver, the surge will destroy everything." He inhaled deeply, closing his eyes for a moment, letting the rhythm of the relic and the mountain flow through him. Rhea mirrored him, synchronizing her breath, her heartbeat, her very essence to the pulse of energy beneath them. The valley seemed to hold its breath along with them. Suddenly, the fissure in the mountainside flared with energy. Light spiraled outward, casting long shadows across the valley floor. The relic pulsed violently, and Rhea felt a shockwave ripple through her body. Kale gritted his teeth, gripping the pedestal tighter. The energy was reaching a crescendo, and the mountain's voice, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed older than time itself, filled the valley, speaking without words. Rhea understood instinctively. This was the moment of judgment, the moment the mountain would decide whether they were worthy guardians. The shadows around them surged forward, testing their resolve. One swirled close to Rhea, passing through her form, and she felt a pressure on her mind, probing for fear or hesitation. She did not retreat. She stood firm, letting the relic's pulse guide her, letting the rhythm of the mountain flow through her. Kale did the same, unyielding, resolute. Slowly, the shadows receded, recognizing their alignment with the mountain's will. The relic pulsed again, sending a shockwave through the valley. The fissure's light began to spiral more rapidly, forming geometric patterns that mirrored the carvings on the sentinel stone. The mountain's energy intensified, the vibrations becoming almost overwhelming. Rhea felt herself trembling, but she forced her mind into calmness, focusing entirely on the pulse of the relic, on the rhythm of the mountain, on the unity of their presence here. A sudden surge of light shot from the fissure, enveloping the relic in a brilliant cocoon. Kale and Rhea instinctively raised their hands to steady it. The energy flowed through them, connecting their minds to the mountain's consciousness, a vast, ancient intelligence that spoke in sensations rather than words. They understood then that the relic was not merely a key. It was a bridge, a living conduit between humanity and the ancient force that had shaped the valley, the peaks, and the world around them. The convergence reached its apex. The sky roared with color and movement, the shadows dancing in perfect harmony with the energy spiraling from the fissure. The relic glowed fiercely, its pulse now indistinguishable from the mountains. Rhea felt herself lifted, not physically but in awareness, as if she could perceive the threads of energy connecting the valley, the peaks, and even the distant stars. She understood that the mountain's awakening was not merely a local event. It resonated across space and time, touching every living thing connected to the valley's power. Kale's voice cut through her awareness. Now, Rhea, we must focus all our intent into the relic. We are its guardians. Our will must guide the energy, or it will be unleashed uncontrollably. Rhea nodded, centering herself, pouring every ounce of focus, courage, and alignment into the relic. The mountain's pulse synchronized with their intent, the energy stabilizing, coiling, and then expanding outward in perfect harmony. The fissure's light surged one final time, brighter than the sun, illuminating every corner of the valley. The shadows of the guardians swirled, then dissipated, leaving the valley bathed in a serene, unearthly glow. The tremors ceased. The vortex above shrank, spinning down into a calm spiral of light. The relic's glow softened, steady and harmonious. The mountain had accepted them as worthy. The first true stage of the convergence was complete. Kale lowered the relic onto the pedestal, breathing heavily. Rhea placed her hand over his, feeling the residual energy flow through them both. The valley hummed gently, a soft echo of the mountain's heartbeat, as if acknowledging their triumph. They had passed the test, but Rhea knew the convergence was far from over. This was only the beginning. The mountain had awakened, but its full power and the true purpose of the relic were yet to reveal themselves. The thieves watched from the edge of the clearing, silent, awestruck, and deeply changed. They had glimpsed the mountain's full might, its intelligence, and its demands. Rhea realized that fear had transformed into respect, and perhaps even understanding. The relic was not something to be stolen or exploited. It was a living guardian, and its power was far beyond human comprehension. Kale looked toward the fissure, now calm, the light soft and steady. We have stabilized it, for now. But the mountain will continue to awaken in stages. The next surge will test us even more. We must remain vigilant. Rhea nodded, feeling the weight of their responsibility settle over her like a mantle. They were no longer mere explorers. They were custodians of an ancient force, witnesses to a power that had slept for centuries and was now stirring fully awake. As the first stars appeared in the night sky, the elderglow shimmered gently, casting a serene blue light over the valley. The relic pulsed softly, in perfect harmony with the mountain, the valley, and now with Rhea and Kale themselves. The valley had returned to a fragile calm. The elderglow shimmered softly, bathing the landscape in a serene, ethereal light. Rhea and Kale stood at the center, the relic resting safely on its pedestal. Its steady pulse resonated in their chests, a reminder that the mountain's power was alive, aware, and eternal. They had survived the first true test of the convergence, yet the weight of responsibility pressed upon them with the force of centuries. The mountain had acknowledged them as worthy guardians, but it had also made clear that vigilance was no longer optional. It was a necessity. Rhea looked around at the valley, the peaks, and the flickering shadows of the guardians who had tested them. Everything was beautiful, yet alive with a power that could not be tamed or ignored. The mountain was a living entity, older than any human memory, and it demanded respect, harmony, and courage. She realized that the relic was more than an artifact. It was a bridge between worlds, a conduit of energy that connected the mountain, the valley, and all life within reach of its influence. Misuse of such a force could have consequences beyond imagination, but guided with care, it could protect, preserve, and even elevate those attuned to it. Kale's gaze rested on her, and in his eyes she saw a mix of pride and solemnity. They had acted together, their intentions aligned with the mountain's will, and in doing so, they had survived. Yet neither of them doubted that this was only the beginning. The convergence would continue in stages, each more challenging than the last, and the relic would demand more of them with every pulse, every surge. But they were ready. They had learned to listen, to the relic, to the mountain, and to the silent messages hidden in the vibrations of the world around them. The thieves, now subdued and humbled, remained at the edge of the valley, no longer threats but witnesses. Their fear had transformed into awe, a deep understanding of the forces they had tried to exploit. Rhea knew that the mountain had given them a choice, to respect its power or face annihilation. They had survived, but only because the Guardians had restrained them. It was a lesson carved into their memory, a warning that the valley and its secrets could never be taken lightly. As night fully embraced the peaks, the stars above twinkled in strange, hypnotic patterns, reflecting the energy of the valley below. The relic's pulse aligned with the rhythm of the mountain, and in that harmony, Rhea felt a profound sense of connection, an awareness that their actions, their courage, and their balance mattered. They were no longer merely explorers. They were stewards of a power that spanned centuries, custodians of a force that had watched silently while civilizations rose and fell. With a final glance at the glowing valley, Rhea understood the truth. The convergence was not a single moment but an ongoing journey. It was a test of will, harmony, and courage, a challenge that would continue as long as the mountain slept and awakened in cycles. And as she stood beside Kale, feeling the pulse of the relic and the heartbeat of the mountain, she knew they were ready. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, guardians of the ancient force, protectors of the balance, and witnesses to a power older than time itself. The mountain hummed softly, the valley shimmered gently, and the relic pulsed steadily, a silent promise that, for now, the convergence was held in balance. But deep within the mountain, something ancient stirred, preparing for the next awakening. The journey was far from over.